Oh, yeah, it's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call time out. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pit. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 reasons sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Miami Heat win in Phoenix to close a little bit better than expected. 3-2. Now they're going to play 3 games against Chicago, but first they come back to play Orlando on Wednesday night. This comes after a 2-1 homestand. So if you package the two together, they've won 5 of their last 8 during a stretch that we thought would be difficult, although it wasn't as difficult tonight as it could have been because Devin Booker was out. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Before we do, we got a sponsor of this live podcast, so we got to give them their credit, and I give them their credit all the time because I don't cook and I don't have a lot of time. So you got to check out, just like I did, Every Plate. This is dinner simplified. If you have trouble getting your kids to eat, this is the perfect place to go. We know we got a lot of dads in the audience here. They got 35 weekly choices to tailor to your family's preferences. They got pre-portioned ingredients which reduce the mess, stress, and the food waste. And again, you don't have to spend your time at the grocery store or spending a ton of money on Uber Eats, DoorDash, and all of that. So check it out. It's Every Plate. We've got a special deal for you, everyplate.com/podcast. Use the code ONTHEFLOORSTEAK to claim your offer. Again, that's the code ONTHEFLOORSTEAK at everyplate.com/podcast to get $2.99 per meal on your first box plus free steak for a month. Offer varies by plan. 1 free 10-ounce serving of steak per box for 4 weeks with active subscription. Ditch the dinner time dilemmas with Every Plate. All right, so Every Plate, the sponsor of this episode, we appreciate them. Let's get to what happened tonight, Alex. We'll get to the player of the night in a second, but let's look at the totality of the road trip. I know Booker didn't play tonight. This was an uneven performance by the Heat at times, but then they went up by 18. It was fairly comfortable. They weren't really pressed late. Going on the road trip, did you expect 3-2? Are they about where you thought they would be? How do you assess it?
Yeah, that's kind of about where I thought they'd be. I mean, you know, the way that they kind of took care of business tonight and against the Jazz, you know, it shows you like that this team can, you know, play, let's say, suboptimal games, like where it's not like, you know, everything was firing and, you know, things are perfect and come out with a win against teams that are honestly just not that great. Like the Suns have been a good team, but, you know, without Booker, it's obviously not the same thing. They have guys who can scale up their, you know, their handling and their scoring a little bit, like we saw with Dylan Brooks. You know, to a lesser extent, guys like Grayson Allen and Gillespie. You know, those guys. You know, like I don't want to bring down like what they can do, but yeah, that's kind of what they did over these last 2 games, and 3-2 sounds about right for this Heat team for a road trip.
Yeah, and 3-2, and this is mentioned here. We're putting up the comments here if you're watching us on YouTube. To win while shooting 9 of 36 from 3, because we know that a lot of their wins have correlated with the better sort of outlier 3-point shooting. They didn't get that tonight. They did not shoot the ball particularly well from 3. It was another game where they rebounded fairly well, not quite like they did the other night. Let me go through some of the numbers here, and then we'll get to the player of the night. One key number people are focusing on is that Norm was 5 of 21 from the floor tonight, 2 of 11 from 3. Looks to me like he's playing hurt right now. Or is it just a slump? What do you think?
Could be both. You know, it's hard to tell for sure, but it's just it's tough to separate sometimes because it's like he's been on the injury report over these last couple of games, and he's been, you know, he's talked about it to the media about like how much he tries to play through pain as much as he can. And I'm sure that's true, but I also think I'm sure like the fact that it's a contract year for him is probably factoring in just a bit. Like I'm sure all these things are kind of factoring in here. The fact that he is playing, and every game before the game he's listed with back tightness, right, lower back tightness. Sometimes he does look a little stiff. The jumper has had like some points here where he didn't have quite the same lift, I would say, as earlier in the season. I'm not too worried about it. Like he's done a pretty good job adjusting and trying to get, downhill some and just make the right play. Like he hasn't been pressing too much, but I do think it's a little bit of everything. He's playing hurt and he's also slumping a bit because, to be fair, he's been shooting like 45% from three for most of the season before this.
Well, and he's, again, had to carry a lot this year in part because the other guy who was supposed to help carry the offense with him hasn't been available, right? I mean, has only played 11 games. And we'll see what happens when the Heat get back on the road trip because Hero was supposed to be evaluated once they got back from it. So we'll see how that plays out or when Tyler's going to come back, if Tyler's going to come back anytime before the trade deadline, which is another touch point, which we're going to get into. We'll have more episodes related to possible trades this week. A couple of other guys I do want to mention here, but they're not going to be my player of the night. Bam, 22 points on 6 of 16 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3, so didn't follow it up with quite the efficiency he had in the last game. Only had 7 rebounds tonight. He had 7 rebounds, and I thought he had 6. Wiggins, in 24 minutes, had 10 points. He did have 10 rebounds and 3 assists. Larson led the team tonight with 35 minutes, which tells you, well, actually, he was tied with someone else, so I'm going to talk about. But Larson, 35 minutes tonight, 10 points. They won 2 out of every 3 games when he starts. It's basically where they're at. And I'm going to continue to hold to this. He needs to continue starting. No matter who comes back, he needs to continue starting. It doesn't mean he's going to be perfect every night. He's been more efficient on other nights, but they just respond to him in a way, and he connects things in a way. They don't have another player to do that. I would absolutely continue to start him, and I've said that consistently. Kasparis, another start tonight. I want to talk about him a little bit later. 7 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. But roll the player of the night because I got somebody else for this.
And now it's time for the A-Aggressive Insurance Player of the Night, sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com. That's with 2 N's and 2 T's, insurancebylynette.com. If you need car insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, or any other type of insurance, she's the person to go to. Based in Lauderhill, she services the entire Tri-County area here in South Florida, and she will make sure to get you the best deal. She'll probably talk to you about the Heat while you're at it. Reach out to her, insurancebylynette.com. And now, the player of the game.
Alex, I'm going to go with Jaquez tonight because I feel like we haven't talked about him lately. And there was a point this season, particularly after he had another injury and missed a couple of games, that I was concerned that he was going to backtrack. He was sort of fading a little bit in terms of their pecking order. I know some of that was Tyler coming back. But he hasn't. He has responded of late. He's had some good performances of late. Tonight, I thought he was really good. The numbers reflected. He was right ahead of Larson in minutes. I misspoke earlier. 36 minutes off the bench, scored 20, 8 of 11 from the floor, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. There have been some games that have been a little sloppy from him where he's sort of got a little tunnel vision on the drives, had some turnovers. But I feel like overall he's broken through and responded to the way teams have adjusted to him again, which is not something he did last season. So I just want to point it out here because I do think the start he got off to and getting in the 6th man of the year running and all that I started to take him for granted a little bit in terms of what he's providing, but they still, when he hasn't played, they felt it. And they respond to him when he comes off the bench.
No doubt. I think he's been, one of the more consistent players for them, even in, like on the last show where I hosted, I spoke a little bit about how, there's been some games there, as you mentioned, where he wasn't playing quite on the same level as he was. But honestly, I thought tonight was a very strong game for him. That second half specifically was awesome, where he had all but one of his buckets in the second half. He just took complete control. And honestly, like it's really hard to overemphasize how important his impact has been for them. And having another guy that can just get downhill with ease and make the right play this season, score down there, grab rebounds, play some defense, like he does a lot of things at a decent level for them. And then you have like the downhill creation, which is obviously like what stands out from his game. And it's been really night and day since last season. And I thought tonight, like you saw the Jaime that could still win sixth man of the year. Like this is his type of game, specifically that second half where it was just, they were going to him again and again. And he just kept going. Like his ability to just get in there into the paint, it's so important for them, man. Like they don't, like their whole offense is revolved around guys getting into the paint and making the right play. And then, that it just keeps going from there until they find the shot that they like. And Jaime has been probably their best driver. It's really hard to, I think, overstate how important he's been for them. And honestly, it's good to see him get going again tonight.
Well, and when you don't have Davion Mitchell, and we'll talk about that too in a second, where you don't have Davion, who is one of their downhill drivers for most of the season, although he's been a little inconsistent with a shot of late. And so they are playing shorthanded in that regard. Of course, Tyler is still out, and you don't have Ware. So, I mean, not that Ware's going to be handling a lot, but that was another guy you could go to off the bench and get production. They don't have him. And so there's even more of a burden on Jaime. And I don't want to start taking him for granted because we didn't expect this season. And now that he's getting back to producing the way he was earlier in the year, I just think we need to point it out. Again, he's put himself in contention for an extension as we go forward. And I don't think that's something we thought during the offseason either. Let's go to the play of the night here. There were a couple of ones, and I want to throw these at you.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-Ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
Okay, there's some basketball plays we could go to here. And I also thought it was kind of funny that, I don't know if you saw the clip, but Spo was getting talked to by Goodwin, and he just kind of looked at him like that. I was going to cite that one. That one went viral. But I'm going to go with Myron Gardner and just pretty much everything he did in his 3 minutes. Is he capable of playing 3 minutes without getting in a scrap with somebody?
Honestly, it feels like he's not. I don't know. Like he's always getting under somebody's skin out there with just the way he plays. Like he truly just doesn't give a damn. Like he doesn't care how you feel about it. He's obviously saying stuff out there too when he's on the bench. With the way that he's gotten under guys' skin on the bench. Like he definitely just has that quality about him. And I know Pella has been attached some of that as well. And people call them like the two rage baiters or whatever, but they do it in different ways. I think Pella's comes more from straight physicality. Mm-hmm. Like his physicality is always there, right? And not that Myron doesn't play physical, like that's not what I'm trying to say. But Pella's physicality, I think, is what gets under guys' skin. And he does sell the contact a little bit on his drives. He does a lot of the head stuff, and that's just the game in the NBA is making sure the refs see the contact that you're trying to sell. So I think like all that stuff gets under guys' skin, whereas Myron, like he's doing some of that as well, but he's obviously like saying stuff out there. I think it's like
there's no question.
I would love to hear what exactly he's saying, because his rate of getting somebody upset every single game, like he hasn't played. When you look at the grand scheme of things, like he hasn't played all that much, but every time he plays, he's doing it, whether on the bench or even when he's not playing, when he's off the bench, when he's around.
Wasn't that the Klay Thompson incident, which Karan told him to go apologize to Klay? I mean, there's been one, right? Pretty much every time that he plays. And so I want to pivot to this, okay? And we're not going to do a long episode tonight. I think people can tell my throat's not great. I want to save my voice for all these these trade episodes this week. But let me go through this list of players. We're going to do 6 a day. Let me throw these players at you, and you tell me which of them has shown enough, kind of in a vacuum, to remain in the rotation when 3 guys get back: Mitchell, Hero, and Ware, which I know they're never completely healthy, this team, but I mean, let's just assume, okay? So here's the players that got minutes tonight. Casper's played 23 as a starter, Fontecchio played 15 off the bench. Gardner 3 off the bench. Jovic 18 minutes. He was 4 of 10 from the floor, had 6 rebounds, 12 points. And Drew Smith, who we've seen all season, he played 23 minutes tonight. Drew came in and immediately made a defensive play and then finished and then had trouble finishing afterwards. But just let's go to those 5. Kasparis, Simone, Myron, Nico, and Drew. Who has a chance to stick in the mix when you add the 3 other pieces? Because I'm assuming Jaquez obviously continues in his role, and then 4 of the starters, Wiggins, Adebayo, Powell, and Larson, are going to be prominent in some way. And again, I think at least, to me, at least 3 of those guys, I would say Larson, Powell, and Adebayo should absolutely be starters. And you can make an argument for Wiggins too. So give me the rest of those guys.
Well, I think as far as who's most likely to stick from those guys, my first answer, I know people are going to hate me for saying this, it's Drew, man. It's Drew. Yeah. I understand like some people's frustrations with him, especially like when it comes at the expense of Kasparis, which we can get into that here. But specifically just Drew in a vacuum, it's hard to deny what he can do on the defensive end, man. He had I think 5 steals in like 17 minutes last night, for example. And he does that all the time. Like he makes a ton of defensive plays, and he's not somebody who's like gambling all the time. Like he just plays elite help defense and also strong like on the ball defense. And I just think it's hard to lose that, right? Like I think this team when they defend, when they rebound, when they take care of the ball, as we talk about all the time, like that's what makes them able to win games in the first place, because it's definitely not going to be their shot making. And I think Drew is a big part of it. I just don't like when Drew like handles the ball a lot. I like when he catches off the ball, gets downhill and tries to go for a layup. Like his finishing hasn't been terrible, but when he's holding the ball and trying to make a play, I'm out on that. I like him as a catch and shoot guy, off the catch, beat the closeout into a drive or make the play. I love that. Just when he's playing that role and not going overboard there. The defense is phenomenal. And I don't think it needs to come at the expense of Kasparis. I think like Spo has obviously been wanting to play them together. And I'm not even talking about like always having to play them together in those units, but he's been wanting to play them together and in the same rotation, even when they're not playing with each other. I think you can put Kasparis next to Davion. I think you could probably put Kasparis next to Hero. Like, obviously next to Norman. It's just, I think his ability to play on and off the ball and his ability to defend 1s and 2s makes him versatile in that way. He's not a guy who holds the ball. He's always going to try to, just try to make the right play. He plays decent enough defense where he's not a liability out there. Is physical enough on defense. I think both of those guys can play. I just think Drew is one of those guys where like Spo loves him, and just his strong defensive play would be my best bet for who sticks. But maybe I'm wrong there, because there was a point where Drew was out, where Spo was kind of playing around with that before the injuries here. I honestly, that's what I would do, and I wouldn't be surprised if Spo did that as well, where Drew and Kasparis remain in the rotation. And if that were the case, I think Fontecchio's out of there. If Tyler's back, like you get the shooting aspect back, I think they would maybe take Fontecchio out. And how many guys is that already? Because they're playing 9 right now.
Well, let's assume right now. So let's assume with Hero, Davion, and Ware, again, difficult to assume that everybody else who's healthy now will stay healthy. So that's 3. Wiggins, Bam, Norm, Larson, you're at 7. Jaquez, you're at 8. So that's why I'm saying the swing guys now become Kasparis, Myron, Simone, Jovic, and Drew. I'm with you that if Tyler is among those back, that Fontecchio loses his role. I think that happens. And I think Simone only shot 1 time today at 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He's actually played better than I expected in this last 2 weeks after really, really falling off. It hasn't necessarily been with the shooting, but he's done some other things. He's rebounded. He's been played a little bit more physically. Like he's played his minutes well enough to get them through here. But again, that's what he's for. I don't think he's for more than that. I don't think he necessarily stays in there. I don't think he's taking Myron out in terms of at least getting some minutes. Like you saw tonight, it was 3 minutes and that was it. He had the 2 fouls. I do think he's going to find some Myron time every game. I do. I just think he changes the energy of things. And I think Spo likes having that card. I don't think he's necessarily a full-time rotation player. What you're saying about Drew and Kasparis, look, I like Drew. I love Drew's story. Okay. And you're right. He is a defensive difference maker. But I think you've gone too far with Kasparis now to pull him out. I don't want to see.
I would hate to take Kasparis out at this point.
Yep. And again, tonight, even, the 3 assists, the 6 rebounds, the no turnovers. The consistent thing is he was talked about as a turnover-prone guy coming out of college. I know there are still some issues in terms of determining the corner and whether or not he always needs a screen. The finishing has been awful. I know you could probably speak to that. The finishing numbers have been really bad. It happened again tonight. He sometimes goes in there without a plan, and he's not athletic enough to kind of make up for it, and that is concerning. But the other thing that was said about him was that, he was a turnover machine at Illinois. He hasn't been. He really hasn't. He hasn't forced the issue too much. No. What he's doing is not easy, because when you're a point guard and you got to play with guys and you haven't played with them consistently, and now he's starting. I mean, he's been starting. They thrust him in this role, and they've been playing some decent teams in this stretch. Again, I know Phoenix was not whole tonight, but it wasn't, and obviously they didn't have Green or Booker tonight, so they were, they were a little bit beat up, a lot beat up. But I'm impressed enough that I would not pull him out completely. I think maybe you give Kasparis and Drew minutes in the first half, and then it's only one of them in the second half. We've seen Spo do that kind of 9.5 thing before, and I think that's the direction it could go. But I keep coming back to this, and I know Brady feels this way as well. And we've talked about it. Like, this is not a season to be playing, guys who aren't going to be part of the future ahead of guys who are, or potentially could be, right?
They never do that, though.
I know.
Spo is not thinking about the future when he's making these rotations. Because if he was, he would have given guys like big roles from the start. But we already have seen like his pattern of doing things with young players, where it's like he's going to bring them along slowly if he doesn't feel like they're ready to win over the next person in line right away. Right? Like, I feel like.
Do you think he's that much? See, but here's the difference, though. The way he talks about Cass is not the way he talks about Ware.
Of course. I mean, there's different things. And I think that's honestly a whole, that might be worth a pod right there, what you just said. Because I've actually been thinking about that. Because I feel like there's a lot, what? I'm not even going to have my thoughts on that. But
don't do it. But you're right. He definitely, like, all the things he says he likes about Cass are the things that he seems to think Ware is lacking in some regard. And so he is going to treat the two of them a little bit differently. And we should have a conversation about, and I think we did this before the season, but it's good to revisit it now. Like, who's more important to their future? Is it Ware or is it Cass?
I mean,
who's
honestly,
more likely to be here in 3 years?
It's interesting that you leave out Jaime, considering the season he's having.
I think Jaime has established what Jaime is.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean.
What Jaime is now. Like, Jaime is a player who they're going to have an extension decision to make, but I think we know his upside is higher than we thought it was last year. Right.
Pella's just like an upgraded version of what he was last year. So I get that.
Pella, I don't think he's worried about. But I mean, we're talking about Ware and Cash. You're talking about 21 years old, 19 years old.
Young, high-ceiling guys.
Correct. Okay. But I do think the way he talks about the two of them, he thinks Cass is getting the most out of what he can right now. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have the experience. He's got to grow into his body a little bit more. But he came in sort of physically ready. I think he feels like Cass is getting the most out of it, and he feels like Ware isn't. And that's why you're getting these two vastly different characterizations of the two players. And that's why I'm not entirely sure that he's going to shelve Kasparis. As much as he loves Drew, if Kasparis is giving them fairly high-level defense, it's hard to make a justification for Drew to necessarily get those minutes ahead of him. I can see them playing together, but it's hard to make a justification because the upside – with Kasparis is so much greater in terms of the way he sees the floor, the playmaking, and all of that stuff that, again, for what Drew provides, you can shelve Drew for 2-3 weeks and bring him back in and he'd still provide it. I just think they need to lean in. Giannis is the prize, obviously, but we know if they don't get him before February 5th, or they're not in position to get him at all, that they have to see what these young players have. And I don't see how you can go from starting Kasparis now to saying, hey, we're going to bounce you back and forth to Sioux Falls. And there's no point for him to be sitting on the bench and not playing. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. All right, lots of comments are coming in. My voice is shot. I'm going to try to rest it for tomorrow. Alex, appreciate you. Check out the work on SI. we don't just have the Heat site. We have the Memphis site and we have the Milwaukee site. So we've been doing a lot of content that cross purposes with
And Indiana and Orlando.
Right, but they're not making a trade with either of those two teams. But we've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about Milwaukee and Memphis lately.
Yeah,
for good reason. You can put the stuff on both sides. Anyway, appreciate everybody joining us on the lives. I'll be back at the arena with Alex and Brady on Wednesday night. Greg will be handling the live on that one. We'll have plenty of podcasts leading up to then. So appreciate that. Appreciate all the subscriptions off the floor and everything along that. Trade Brady. What is that about? All right. Have a good night, everybody.